Okie dokie. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's WinterhelmGames, and we're back with some more of the horror story reactions. I've done one or two to start off the year around Christmas and New Year. I just haven't a chance to get back into it again until now. So again, these are from Twisted Tales. He's letting me keep going with the reactions for these videos. So this one, Valentine's Day hasn't long passed. So these are, I thought I'd check this out first then. So there's 3 bone-chilling Valentine's Day horror stories. So if you have any horror stories yourself from around this time of year, you can let me know in the comments. But like and subscribe if you enjoy this type of content. Head over to Twisted Tales and give them some love. Let them know I sent you across. Let's get into it.
Now I've been nursing this crush for what feels like forever on this older, sultry neighbor that lives in the building across from mine. She was like a living dream, with those mysterious eyes and a smile that could melt glaciers. Valentine's Day rolls around and I decide it's time to shoot my shot. I mean, what's the worst that could happen, right? Famous last words, my friends. So, I gather my courage, do the whole flowers and chocolates routine, and head over to her apartment. I knock on the door, my heart pounding like a drum solo, and there she is, looking even more stunning than usual. I stammer out some awkward words, but to my surprise she smiles, graciously accepts the gifts, and invites me in for a cup of coffee. Jackpot, right? The next few days were so great. We're going out having dinner, and she's showering me with attention. It's like I've won the romance lottery, and I can't believe my luck. As we spend more time together, I start noticing some odd quirks. She's into some pretty dark stuff, like not the let's binge watch a horror movie kind of dark, but more like let's dabble in the occult and talk about the supernatural kind of dark. Now, I'm not one to judge, but it's getting a bit strange. One night, she invites me over for a home-cooked dinner. I walk into her apartment, and it's like entering a gothic fairy tale. Candles everywhere, dim lighting, and an eerie silence that hangs in the air. I'm kind of put off by the scenery, but I'm smitten, so I go along with it. As we sit down to eat, she starts telling me about this ancient ritual that supposedly brings eternal love. Now, I know I should have gotten up and left, but there's this strange allure about her that makes me hesitant to bolt. She hands me a small ornate box and says it's a token of her affection. I open it, and inside is a lock of her hair. Yeah, you heard me right, a lock of her hair. She insists I keep it close, like for good luck or something. Over the next few days, things take a turn for the bizarre. She starts talking about her past lives, claiming she's been around for centuries. I'm thinking, all right, that's some intense role-playing, but she's dead serious.
Is she a witch?
She talks about her past lovers, all of whom mysteriously disappeared. At this point, I'm feeling like I'm in some twisted horror flick, but instead of running away, I stick around. Call me a glutton for punishment. Another night, she suggests we take a trip to the countryside for a special getaway. Now, I'm thinking it's a romantic cabin or something, but oh no, it's an ancient cemetery. We're walking among the tombstones and she starts reciting some ancient incantation. The atmosphere gets heavy and suddenly, the wind picks up. I can hear whispers, like distant voices pleading for release. She looks at me, her eyes gleaming with a strange intensity, and says, "Our love will transcend even death." Now, I'm no playboy or anything like that, but that doesn't sound like your typical Valentine's Day declaration. We leave the cemetery, and as we drive back, I can feel that something's not right. She's talking about a future together, but all I can think about is how to gracefully make my exit. Days turn into nights, and the more I learn about her, the more I realize I've wandered into a web of darkness. She starts talking about this forbidden elixir that grants immortality. She pulls out a small vial and tells me to drink it. I'm at a crossroads. Do I take a sip and see where this rabbit hole leads? Or do I make a run for it? I decide to play it safe, telling her I need some time to think. She smiles, seemingly understanding, but there's a flicker in her eyes that creeps me out. That night, I toss and turn in bed, haunted by visions of ancient rituals and eternal love gone wrong. I realize I've been swept into something far beyond my comfort zone, and I need to break free. The next day, I head over to her place and tell her it's over. I can see a storm brewing in her eyes, but she surprisingly takes it well. As I leave her apartment, I feel a weight lifting off my shoulders. I'm free from the grip of the bewitching neighbor. Days pass and I start to put the peculiar experience behind me. I focus on the normalcy of my everyday routine, convincing myself that it was all just a bizarre detour into the unknown. However, on the eve of the following Valentine's Day, I received an anonymous package at my apartment. Opening it cautiously, I find a vial containing a mysterious liquid and a note that simply reads, "Love that transcends even death." I went over to her building to confront her about the package because I know that it had to have come from her. I began knocking on her door as one of her neighbors was leaving his apartment. He asked why was I knocking on the door to an empty apartment. I told him that I was looking for the woman that lived there. He then told me that the apartment was empty and has been empty for nearly a year. I thought, oh great. Now I won't be able to tell her to leave me alone since now I don't know where she is. The neighbor then tells me something that scares the living crap out of me. He says that the woman that was living there committed suicide around this time last year. Yep, you heard that right. How is that even possible when I just received this package today? The realization hits me like a ton of bricks. That mysterious package wasn't some elaborate gesture from the living. It was a haunting message from the afterlife.
I wonder then if that meant that she committed suicide shortly after he left her, but then organized a package to be delivered the following Valentine's as a way of reminding him of what happened, I suppose. But that is definitely creepy. Now that's story number one. Let's see if we can check out which one to yourself and which one did I find to be the most creepiest. So let's jump into number two.
About to share a story that unfolded in the not-so-distant past, a tale that will make the hairs on the back of your neck stand. Back in the day, I had a boyfriend. I'll just call him Jake. We were high school sweethearts, but like many teenage romances, things got messy and we called it quits. Fast forward to a few years later, and I'm living my life, thinking the past is behind me. But Jake definitely had other plans. It's Valentine's Day, and I'm looking forward to a cozy night in. Just me, a rom-com, and some snacks. Classic Valentine solo style. But as I'm settling in, there's a knock on the door. Thinking it's a late delivery or maybe a neighbor, I open it without much thought. And there he is, Jake, standing on my doorstep with this weird grin on his face.
Okay.
It's been years since we last spoke, and I never expected him to show up out of the blue, especially on Valentine's Day. Against my better judgment, I let him in. Maybe he's changed, right? We start chatting, and everything seems normal at first. But as the conversation goes on, Jake starts reminiscing about our past, bringing up old inside jokes and memories. It's like he's trying to rewrite history, and I can't stop thinking about how this whole thing is weird. Jake then asks if we can go for a walk to catch up and talk about the good old times. Part of me wants to say no, but curiosity gets the better of me. As we stroll down the dimly lit streets, he starts getting into the nitty-gritty details of our past and seems to pine for those days once again. We end up in a park we used to frequent during our high school days. The nostalgia is thick in the air, but it's mixed with this unsettling vibe. Jake hands me a rose and a picture of us from back in the day. It's like he's trying to resurrect some long-buried romance, and I'm left wondering where this is all going. As we continue our eerie walk, Jake's tone changes. He starts talking about destiny, how our paths were meant to cross again. My gut is screaming at me to get out of there, but I keep listening, hoping he'll eventually veer back into sanity. Out of nowhere, he pulls out a knife. At first, I was so shocked that I just froze. When I snapped out of it, I made a run for it, sprinting through the park. I can hear Jake's footsteps echoing behind me, but I was too scared to look back. I managed to find refuge in a nearby convenience store, and the cashier calls the police. But when the cops arrive, Jake is nowhere to be found. It's like he vanished into thin air, leaving me to question whether I'm stuck in some twisted nightmare. Days go by and the nightmare continues. Jake bombards me with creepy Facebook messages, talking about fate and how our love is unbreakable. It's like he's living in a different reality, one where our breakup never happened. I'm living in constant fear, wondering if he's watching my every move. Desperate for answers, I decided to hire a private investigator since I wasn't having much luck with the local police. I thought that maybe they can dig up something on Jake and help me break free from this nightmare. The investigator starts uncovering a dark side of Jake I never knew existed, a history of obsession, multiple failed relationships, and a pattern of stalking. One day, the investigator drops a bombshell. Jake had a secret hideout near my home. The realization hits me like a ton of bricks. I've been living under his watchful eye without even knowing it. As the investigator continues their work, Jake escalates his game. He sends me disturbing pictures of places I frequent, like he's always one step ahead. It's a relentless cycle of fear, and I'm left wondering if I'll ever break free from this twisted game. Valentine's Day approaches once again, and the messages become more and more creepy. Jake sends me a package, a beautifully wrapped box with a card that simply says, "Love, Jake." My hands tremble as I open it, revealing a heart-shaped locket, just like the one he gave me during our high school days. The message is clear. He's not letting go. He believes our love is eternal, and there's no escaping the web he's spun around me. It's a sick reminder that, in his twisted mind, we're forever entwined. As it gets closer to nighttime, I barricade myself in my home, hoping it'll be a quiet night. But then, I hear a soft whisper outside my living room window. Jake's voice, cold and haunting. The nightmare isn't over. He's still out there, watching, waiting for the perfect moment to strike.
You're always out there, call the
This time
police.
I am ready, and I quickly phone the police. I am relieved when they arrive and finally take him into custody. With the long history of evidence of stalking me and other women I had from the private investigator, it was enough to put him away for a good while.
Yeah, creepy stalker story, of course. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't do anyone any favors when you get to that point when you get your head wrapped into something where you think that the other person is obviously reflecting those feelings when it's clear that they aren't. But out of those two stories, I still find the first one more creepy, more disturbing, perhaps, obviously, but with her having to, obviously, she committed suicide after that guy walked away from her, and then having a package set up to be delivered the following year. Must have been what happened. But yeah, the first one to me is still the creepiest. So let's see number 3.
I'd been chatting with this guy online for weeks. His profile seemed normal enough, liked long walks, had a pet cat, and claimed to be a hopeless romantic. So when he suggested we meet in person on Valentine's Day, I figured, why not? The evening arrived, and I put on my favorite red dress. I was excited but nervous, like butterflies had turned into stomping elephants in my stomach. We agreed to meet at a cozy cafe in the heart of the city. As I walked in, I scanned the room for someone who resembled his profile picture. And there he was, sitting by the window, sipping on a latte. He looked just like his pictures, clean-cut, with a friendly smile. I thought, maybe this won't be so bad. We exchanged greetings, and the conversation flowed smoothly. He was charming, making me laugh with his witty jokes. Yet, as we chatted, I couldn't shake this odd feeling. Something about his eyes. It was like they held a secret, a darkness hidden behind that smile. After a while, he suggested we take a walk in a nearby park. It sounded romantic, so I agreed. The park was dimly lit, shadows playing tricks in the moonlight. That's when he started talking about things that made my skin crawl. Dark fantasies, twisted desires. It was as if a switch had flipped, revealing a side of him he'd kept hidden. I brushed it off, telling myself maybe he was just trying to be edgy.
Yeah, but even if you had good intentions, you still wouldn't bring that up on a first date, would you? Seriously.
We strolled along, the night growing colder. As we turned the corner, I noticed a dark van parked at the end of the alley. The van really creeped me out and alarm bells began to ring in my head. He pulled out his phone and made a call, muttering something about a friend helping us with a surprise. My instinct screamed at me to run, but fear rooted me to the spot. The van's door creaked open, revealing a creepy-looking guy inside. He had a greasy beard, wild eyes, and a grin that sent chills down my spine. My date gestured for me to join them, but every fiber of my being screamed, "Danger!" I stammered something about needing to leave and turned to walk away. That's when he lunged, grabbing my arm with a grip that felt like iron. Panic surged through me as I struggled to break free. The guy in the van started the engine, and the situation went from eerie to downright terrifying. I twisted and turned, desperately trying to shake him off. My heart pounded in my chest, and the cold night air stung my lungs. In a final surge of adrenaline, I kneed him in the crotch and wrenched myself free and sprinted down the alley. I could hear their footsteps behind me, their laughter echoing in the dark. It was like a nightmare come to life. I didn't look back until I reached the safety of a well-lit street with people around. I stood there, catching my breath, feeling a mixture of fear and relief. That Valentine's night had turned into a real nightmare, a date from hell. I requested an Uber on my phone, my hands trembling as I recounted the chilling encounter to the driver. He assured me I did the right thing, but the shadows of that alley haunted me. It was a stark reminder that not everyone online is who they seem, and sometimes danger hides behind a smile.
Yeah. That one was probably, I would say, the second best one. I think the first one was still the creepiest. Third one was second then to me, and then the second one would have been third in terms of the order of how creepy perhaps they were. But the first one was definitely, I think, the best one in terms of the story. But yeah, let me know what you think as well, and I'll see if I can get another one or two of these done. Maybe put them up every week or every second week, but we'll see how it goes. But say, head across to Twisted Tales, give them some love, let them know that I sent you across, and keep an eye for other videos up this week. I think they got a couple of reaction videos, Star Trek and that there as well, so keep an eye and have a good week, folks. Bye.